Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Mamasapano, so many questions, not enough answers. Our guests tonight are retired Chief Superintendent Rodolfo Boogie Mendoza, President of the Philippine Institute for Peace, Violence, and Terrorism Research. He was once also the Deputy Director of the PNP Directorate for Investigation and Detective Management, credited for unraveling the Bojinka plot of 1987 or 1995? 1995, and a member of the PMA class of 1978. Colonel Restituto Padilla, spokesperson of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and Jose Custodio, defense analyst, a guest here in the show so many times already. Thank you very much for being here, Jose, for coming back to the show, and of course you, Colonel Padilla, and John Mendoza. Thank you for being here on the show for the first time. Let's talk about the two men who were the targets of this operation that lasted for almost a decade, Marwan and Usman. We have 12 minutes. Can we try and squeeze in their biographies, their lives in these 12 minutes? Who are Marwan and Usman? John Mendoza, can we begin with you?
As far as I know, Marwan is a Malaysian national. He entered the southern back door, particularly in the Sulu corridor, using the usual route. And he was hosted by the Abu Sayyaf. That was sometimes between 201 or 202, I cannot recall. And he was able to integrate with the local jihadist groups there, the Abu Sayyaf, mostly in Basilan. And when the tandem of Omar Patek and Dulmaten went to Central Mindanao to establish a foothold and perform their task in accordance with the vision of creating a Islamic theocratic state covering Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Marwan was left behind. Then, when Gaddafi Janjalani died, sometimes 205, Marwan went to Central Mindanao, and he was able to establish close contact with Abdul Basit Usman. He was primarily involved in the Bali bombing incident.
2000.
He was an acknowledged bomb maker, also skills on sniping, and married 3 Filipinas, Filipina, I should say. And by integrating with various tribes there, and with the aid of Usman, in a short period, coming from several bombing missions in Central Mindanao, most especially in Jensan, because of the connection of Usman with the Patik and Dolmaten, Marwan replaced their gap because they were arrested and neutralized. So that relationship continued, and Marwan became not only a high-value target pursuant to the counterterrorism mission objective of the U.S. government and Indonesian, Malaysian, and most especially the Philippine government. Marwan served as the nerve center for what we call alliances, aided greatly by Abdul Basit Usman. And may I stress here that in their consolidation effort to established alliances with a faction of Abu Sayyaf, the GI. Mr. Abdul Basit was formerly the commanding officer of the MILF. He replaced the famous Muklis Yunus, who was implicated in the Rizal bombing incident with Al-Fatur Al-Ghosi. These are the flow of connections. Because when Mr. Al-Ghosi was neutralized, it was the tandem of Patek and Dolmatin who appeared to be calling the shots. But when they were neutralized again, it was Marwan, filling the gap of the Malaysian jihadist personality, fitting into that kind of arrangement. Now, Mr. Usman, aside from his former status as covert operator of the 1OP, previously managed by Amiral Umbragato, appeared to be training explosives trainees that saw actions in several bombing missions in the provinces of North Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat, and so on. Going back to the early period in 2002, Mr. Usman was arrested, but he managed to escape. He is an escapee. And due to that escape, he was able to maximize his movement, even training some Abu Sayyaf personalities. And most importantly, some GIs during that inclusive period, 2002 up to these days, like the like of Amin Bako, Kim in the Region 9 network, have occupied that Mamasapano special guerrilla enclave. Because it involves BIFF, the GI, and the 1OP. And the most interesting aspect of this special alliance is the 1OP, aside from their placement in that area, Mamasapano barangays, most especially the Tuli, Kanipao, and Kitsandaon, are the places wherein YouTube uploaded the video.
Which one? The 6-minute and 10-second video?
Yes, all of that.
All the videos.
That video, most especially the video unmasking the mask of Basit Usman, the video involving whose shots were taken at the rear, and a video involving firing in the air when an oath of allegiance before the caliphate was conducted.
I'm sorry, sir. I was referring to the videos of the January 25 incident. No, not that.
Not the
other previews.
YOTO YouTube offering oath of allegiance to the so-called caliphate, Mr. Baghdadi.
Doon nag-upload?
Yes, because
so
they
there
are,
is what? Internet, Wi-Fi there?
Yes, because they are doing it somewhere in Davao. Then they will do it. They have some connections with. They have some connections with Islamic NGOs. Islamic NGOs are now in Mindanao or apparently activated and reinvigorated. And it was again Mr. Usman who is maintaining this coordination and liaison.
So we have Marwan and Usman, like you said, high-value targets, not just for the U.S., not just for other countries, but also for us. Because we have Filipino nationals who were killed because of their activities.
Yeah, right. And in addition to that, with the creation of the Khilafah Islamiyah Mindanao, which was implicated in this again the Oro bombing incident last year, and with the pronouncement of Usman creating the Bangsamoro Justice Movement, and that is true. It is not a mere propaganda. Based on credible information we received, that is an attempt to reach a certain plausible of deniability, because BGM is still linked primarily with the BIFF. And this is sanctioned by with the MILF, because MILF is trying to distance itself pursuant to the ongoing peace process.
Yeah.
Because,
Trying to distance itself,
yeah.
sir. In other words, it hasn't really cut its ties
Yes,
with
because this
Marwan and
BGM
Usman.
and BGM is acting as a buffer. And the most credible information we receive is that prior to the YOU YouTube upload, Usman was with 2 teams provided by the 1OP to
The
form
105th is the same
to form a
company that
nucleus
fought
of the
the
Bangsamoro Justice Movement. And within the Bangsamoro Justice Movement, they are using this for propaganda purposes. The so-called Jama'at Al-Ansar Khilafah. That is also existing and it would be activated. But presumably, with this arrangement, the Bangsamoro Justice Movement would be free to conduct fundraising, training. They are training some elements of the base command, but necessarily they are attempting to project that they are distancing. That is their ploy. And Pia, that Mamasapano area is also occupied by other guerrilla forces, like there is a so-called Moro Army Committee belonging to the New People's Army. These are
Moro Army Committee
yes,
belonging to the New
yes,
People's
yes.
Army. So, okay,
and
we have an
this is
interesting-
being tolerated by the MILF Central Committee because earlier, starting in 1987, they have already established the strong alliance in a tactical level, and it would be going into a strategic level because politically and militarily they have discussed this. We prepare a thick report on this, and I can substantiate it.
Moro Army Committee.
Yeah, yeah.
Like how many men based
in
there
that
in
area.
Mamasapano?
In that area alone, more than 50.
50.
That is, I have the barangays I will not mention here. And I suspect, according to our credible informant, that they joined also the firefight, the gun battle. And
January 25.
these people, this BIFF, the GI, Marwan, and this Moro Army Committee are projecting themselves as a Islamic State aligned or affiliate organization. Primarily because when they offer the oath of allegiance, it was apparently accepted by the Caliph. That is the process. When you command, it would be accepted, and you have to do your share. You have to obey and loyal to the wish of the Caliph. So that's a Muslim holy thing.
All right. We've reached the 12th minute. We'll have to take a short break. Please stay with us. News.PH will be right back. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Beyond Ver. Still with us, General Rodolfo Boogie Mendoza, Colonel Resi Padilla, and Professor and Jose Custodio. Let's continue, sir, General Mendoza.
Yes, because it appears, if you will not dig deeper, one OPF is being projected as an autonomous base command. And there are...
Autonomous meaning hindi kontrolado
yes,
ng
these
MI.
are
That's what they're trying to
yeah,
to
they are
show.
right. And they can be disciplined, but they are actually playing good cop and bad cop. That is the essence of revolutionary
So in other words,
organization.
even if the MI Central Committee says ceasefire, walang mangyari. Even if the Central Committee says balik nyo yung mga armas,
No, sometimes they will play games like this kind of approach. The one OPF, BIFF, and other foreign jihadists will initiate fundraising operation, and plausible deniability. The MI is not involved in that. They have done that when they created the Al-Kubar. They have done that when they created the Pentagon and Abu Sofia. We have solid information about that.
yeah. So Mamasapano is, like you said, a special guerrilla
Enclave.
So it is like no man's land to the government. So anytime any government forces, if government forces enter, what?
Because
They're
they
dead.
have a doctrine that they are following. The so-called an attack on one is
an
attack to
attack on
all.
all.
And that is locally termed as pintakasi. That is true. And that is not an official policy by the MILF Central Committee level. Because
It is a policy among all the
at the
guerrilla
top,
groups.
at the top.
Yeah.
And that is also happening in the 106 and 118. That's why if our armed forces there are operating, targeting BIFF, the BIFF will transfer its camp. If they target the training base, they also transfer it. But Mamasapano remains constant. Nandoon yung mga ibang grupo. And the worst part, there is a nexus of organized crime, insurgency, and terrorism in that area. Because some forces belonging to private armed group, which are associated with Ampatuan, there is a brother of Mayor Bensar named Binarin Bensar, known as Commander Big Time.
Big time?
Yes, Big Time ang the code name is hiding in Mamasapano.
In Mamasapano. Okay. Okay. Jose, what can you add to this? To this tale of...
Tale of intrigue. Well, looking at the profile of Marwan is that he is not a... he's like... he did not come from a poor family, okay? This was a well-educated person.
He was educated, right?
A well-educated person, okay? Again, which gives you an idea on the type of people who end up in terrorism, okay, or who become leading figures in terrorism. It is not out of ignorance. It's actually out of intelligence and their capacity to articulate whatever grievance that they have. So Marwan was such a person, okay, and and if you look at his family, it also there were many who were also involved in one way or another in jihadist activities, despite the fact that they were coming from well-to-do classes in Malaysian society. Now, and which sort of reminds us also of of Osama bin Laden himself, who was not a poor person, but also came from a affluent family. So that is the type of person Marwan is. Apparently, the guy also had some sort of messianic complex also, by virtue of his association with this jihadist movement, the thing is that he was able to enter into the Philippines because of the porous situation that we have down there, intermarry, as General Mendoza said, with 3 Filipino wives. Allegedly, there's some saying that he was apparently some reports were saying that he did like his women, actually, that he was sort of fond of female companionship, either personally or through messages, okay? Text mate, as they say. So that's the guy, okay? He now, for whatever ambitions that he had when he came here, because remember, he was a fugitive. He was running away not from just the Americans, he was running away also from the Australians, who apparently wanted him also because of the fact that the Bali bombing killed a lot of Australians. Fortunately, so much intense pressure brought down on this person, prohibited him from carrying out whatever grand plan that he had. Okay, we can actually thank the efforts of, for example, General Mendoza here, Colonel Padilla here, who were once in the security service or as in the defense establishment, that their efforts prevented Marwan from becoming more dangerous and powerful, because
It
restricted his movements. He was always on the run. He could never break out of Mindanao. That is one thing that is very interesting about this situation of Marwan. Although he did train people, there is no successful operation that he did outside of, especially in metropolitan Manila. There were apparently attempts by him, but they were always being frustrated by the intense government pressure on him. And so when you look at some of his emails, one would see that he would be talking about people who would be getting killed or whatever. So I think the guy eventually might have been becoming fatalist or whatever, wanting to become a martyr or something like that. No? So all in all, we are fortunate that that the pressure on Marwan was able to prohibit him from carrying out greater damage. Okay,
Yeah.
but with Usman still out there, and with allegedly around at least the numbers vary. Some say 300 people were trained by. So there's still amount of even if you get these two guys, you still have this
To deal with 200, 300.
200, 300 people
Yeah.
who have been trained.
Yeah.
And as a result of Mamasapano and all of the heated situation that we're in now, it gives the necessary context for these people to operationalize whatever terror plans that they want, especially as especially if both sides, the Philippine government and the MLF, eventually, if
Yeah.
they don't proceed with the peace process and conflict breaks
Okay,
out.
you mentioned the emails. One of those emails where Marwan was communicating with his brother, he talked about how the MILF had protected him. So my question was, and given General Mendoza's background about what it's like in Mamasapano as a guerrilla enclave, are the MILF and the BIF just really one and the same? Are they one and the same, or is it a situation of you have MI by day, BI by night, BI by day, MI by night, or it depends, whatever they want to be, that's what they transform into. Colonel Padilla, can you tell us how does the AFP look at and don't think about the peace talks muna.
Yeah, okay. No worries. Just one thing about Marwan first before I answer your question, Pia. There was something that he added to the dimension of improvised explosive devices. The secondary explosion that characterized Bali was something unique at that time, and it created a bigger damage. So that must have ingrained his name in the list of the
That was
U.S.
his
Australians.
trademark.
That was his trademark,
Yeah.
and that was what he brought in the terrorism arena. So that's why he was famous, and I believe that's one of the things that commanded a big price for his head. And we're fortunate that he is already out of the picture, except those that he trained, of course. Now, to answer your question, that is the complexity that characterizes this area, the Mamasapano area. And that is why, as you have heard in previous discussions about preparing for operations, because government has been hot on the trail of Basit and Marwan since we found out that they were in country, and that the series of bombings that ensued because of their presence became a big thing for our forces. Kaya we never let up. We've been following police, armed forces, combined effort, singular effort. All of those are government efforts trying to put an end to this trail of violence. Now, that is why, as you heard from some of the discussions during the hearings, there have been points raised by the police staff that they would not want to work with the AFP because we sometimes cancel or abort a mission precisely because we know of these complexities. It was the armed forces who came into the area and did all these operations during the time of President Erap and subsequently for Bolyok for the time of Arroyo.
Yeah.
So all of these are in our lessons learned. And we know the complexity which characterizes the battlefield. That's why
You're talking about the past operations.
past
no?
operations.
Okay.
So all of those impact on what we do at the current time.
Yeah.
Plus the fine balance that we are striking between peace and being able to do our law enforcement operations together with the police.
Yeah.
So all of these are considerations that our men on the ground are very much aware of. Kaya kung minsan, it's always that you get these comments during the hearing that we aborted this operation and that, precisely because of those considerations.
The consideration meaning that MI and BI are one?
Yes, that could be one, and then the complexity that comes in the phenomenon we call pintakasi, when one is attacked, they consider each other
Everybody
as
comes
blood
to
brothers
the
to come and
rescue.
defend each other.
Okay, but well, it's confusing because you have the MI saying that no, we were not protecting Marwan, we are not protecting Usman, who is now on the run, quote unquote.
That's why we put the burden of proof for them to explain that.
General Mendoza, very, very briefly. So MI and BI are one?
Yes, because what binds them at present is the usual perspective on kinship and friendship. And most importantly, above this friendship and kinship, there is an agreement about alliance, and that is manifested in the Mamasapano area. And MILF cannot deny the fact that that alliance is existing. Because the MILF is thinking strategically. Why is it that MILF has a 3 ordnance factory? Is this a genuine manifestation of the sincerity? Is it a part of the greater interest on the commissioning of these firearms? So there are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
what happened on the issue that all criminal elements with outstanding warrant of arrest are now with the BIFF? That is their technique. So that the MILF will have a clean slate.
Yeah.
That's always the technique.
Parang hands-off. Wala kaming kinalaman
Yes,
dyan.
yes.
Ganon. Where exactly are these 3 ordnance factories, sir? In Mamasapano or where?
No.
Where exactly are
One is in the Mount Cararao complex. That's a wide territory.
Where is that,
One
sir?
in Pilis Mountain.
Where is this, sir? Mount Carraro Complex?
Lanao.
In Lanao?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then?
In Mount Pilis, I'm not sure on the municipality. But,
Also in Lanao?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it's between Cotabato and North Cotabato.
But the MI has never acknowledged that these are,
Yes, but we have a video to show that this is functioning.
it is alive and well. Okay, we'll have to take a short break. Please stay with us. News.PH. We'll be right back. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Still with us, General Boogie Mendoza, Colonel Padilla, and Jose Custodio. So we can say safely that the MILF and the BIFF and all these other groups that they have alliances within Mamasapano were coddling and or protecting Marwan and Usman, even if they claimed many times that, well, the house of Marwan is outside MILF territory. Correct?
Yes. Very correct.
Jose?
Yeah, actually, because the BIFF is like a clearinghouse for the MILF's dirty schemes, okay?
Clearinghouse sounds very nice. What
yes.
do you mean exactly?
Well, it's like actually they're just one and the same. They're linked by virtue of kinship, as General Mendoza was saying. But because of the peace process, the MILF has to appear,
Hands clean.
Hands clean.
Hands clean coming
Okay.
to the table.
So here's the
Okay.
BIFF as a convenient tool from which they can utilize for example, holding on to terrorists or coddling terrorists. Okay, they can always say it's not us, it's that
It's
other
somebody
group,
else.
it's somebody
Oh.
else. So that's
of whom we have over whom we have no control.
That's-
So Usman, for example, could be protected by any of those other groups,
or
right?
any of those groups. Now the
Yeah.
problem, however, is but because of Pintakasi and because also of the fact that there is so much linkages between these groups within there, that the government has to take that into consideration if it wants to deal with the BIFF. Dealing with the BIFF might trigger a larger conflict in the first place because of the fact that there is also that other element in the MILF that they are not like the AFP, which is solid in control from command structure. This one, you might have certain,
Rogue elements?
not rogue, but just commands
Uncontrollable.
that would jump in
Uh-huh.
if the government takes decisive action against the BIFF. So that's the
Yeah.
problem in this type. You can't really separate them cleanly. There's always these distinctions.
Yeah.
Okay, and the thing here is that the terrorism element is a new concept. Okay, that just added to something that has been going on during the Spanish period. Okay, Pintakasi is nothing new. If you talk to commanders of who served in the 1970s, they would tell you the same thing, those who went after, even if you ask the Japanese veterans who fought here in World War II, they had very big problems in Mindanao because of the fact that the Muslim resistance was very, very strong by virtue of that particular concept. So Pentecost is not something new, okay? So that thing that we were talking about a while ago is that terrorism added a new dimension to everything here now. So you have to get out terrorism, but in order to stamp them out, you run into this age-old defense mechanism tradition right there.
Yeah. Well, you know, the government peace panel chair had said, was it yesterday or the other day, that the MI had promised them, had sworn that they had severed their ties with the BIFF, etc.
Yes, they made that pronouncement, and banking on the good faith of the MILF, well, as government is all out for peace. Any kind of small step forward in terms of peace is something that we as a nation must take, because whatever small step we take towards peace hopefully will lead to a lasting one. So on that account, after so many years of dealing with the MILF, there has been some relationships that have been established. So unfortunately, the Mamasapano incident occurred. So now the burden of proof is on the part of the MILF to continue to prove their sincerity.
Yeah. So if we have that Bangsamoro-based law, if we sign that peace agreement, if or when we sign the peace agreement with the MILF, okay, so we make peace with the MILF, but there's the BIFF, there's so many other groups there in Mamasapano, and I'm sure in so many other areas. So
maybe lost to a lot of our citizens, Pia, is the fact that this is still in the stage of preparation. It still has to go through a fine sieve, through our Congress, to our Senate, and they, I think, are the ones who have the responsibility to fine-tune the law.
Yeah.
So this is not yet done. It has to go through that. Now, what happens here that complicates the issue right now is that before, everybody was leaning forward for peace. But unfortunately, this Mamasapano incident has derailed that effort, and now, instead of the fine sieve that is only several microns in thickness, now they have to go through a finer sieve. Okay? Sasalain ito ng mabuti. This is now what we think will delay the process. But just the same, as government, as I have mentioned, we have the obligation to work and see through any effort that will help us lead to some lasting peace in the future.
yes, Jose.
Yeah, the thing is that, just to add to what Colonel Padilla was saying, is that the MILF does have the burden, okay, to show sincerity and proof. The problem is that what we tend to also overlook is that the government, the Philippine government, also has a major burden, which is to ensure that the peace process continues. Okay, because within the government itself, there are many elements. When I say the government, we're talking about the executive and legislative here, not just the administration of Aquino. There are many elements who are trying their best to scuttle everything already. Okay, and that is what the effort is right now, is to ensure that the peace process continues, that justice is served in what happened in Mamasapano, and as much as possible, prevent this thing from leading to a break in the talks, as what some other sectors want, actually.
Yeah, but you know, Jose, above and beyond the peace talks, let's say there is that peace agreement.
Yeah.
How are we going to deal with with what is on the ground in Mamasapano?
How are we going to deal with on the ground in Mamasapano?
Yeah, with those the Pintakasi tradition, with all these special guerrilla alliances in place. So because you're only signing the peace agreement with the MI, di ba? MI lang naman, di ba? O ang dami pang grupo. So paano yun?
That's going to last forever, actually.
Yeah, so that will require 5 more episodes, right?
Yes, because
so
the thing
let's
is
not talk about it now.
Yeah. The thing is the thing is that we must remember that this is not a overnight solution. Okay, the MILF will always be like that. Okay, remember, secessionist or rebel organizations always have an agenda. Okay, even if you have a peace process, the peace process is not going to guarantee that the MILF will be there. Okay,
Yes.
actually, it's sometimes the peace process might trigger another group that will rise. So that is what some
Because
people
they're
are looking.
unhappy with what was
They're
said.
unhappy. So the thing with the BIFF.
Why is
Okay,
it it's always like that? Ano?
because
Anyway.
you go back to history again.
Oh.
You go back to history. from the perspective of from those who articulate
Yeah.
who eventually end up in the secessionist camp, they always hark back to the successful defense against Spanish colonialism. So they believe, some of them actually believe that they are a separate entity, and that fuels
Yeah.
this secessionism. That's why it's been there for the past 400 years, actually. So it's not going to be overnight.
All
But
right, yeah.
better to talk, as they say, than to shoot it out.
Right. Agree. Well, just to make this, put this on the record, no, we did ask the MILF to join us via telephone patch. We were supposed to speak to Mr. Ghazali Jafar, but he is unavailable right now, so unfortunately he can't join us. Okay, very briefly again, and as in really very briefly, no, I'm sure you have all seen that 6-minute and 10-second video that went viral, showing not just the taking of the things, no, of the SAF, yung equipment, yung mga personal items sila, pero yung pagbaril sa isang SAF commando na nakahiga. Is this a regular occurrence? Is this something that any one of these guerrilla groups, rebel groups in the area do as a matter of course? If someone is lying on the ground and he's wounded, do they shoot them in the head? Sir?
Well, when the BIFF offered the pledge of allegiance to the ISIS, it has the intention to demonstrate the brutality of its operation so that it can convince ISIS hierarchy. That's my speculation at that time, at this time. Because I cannot believe that the MILF will just do it. But the question is, it has tolerated that kind of arrangement. And this is intended for fundraising because we have earlier information that the Bangsa Justice Movement and the so-called Khilafah Islamiyah is intending to maximize their fundraising initiatives. And with the switching of allegiance from the Al-Qaeda affiliated status, they are now claiming to be aligned with the ISIS. And if you will examine the ISIS brand of extremism, it was already demonstrated many times. Beheading, burning alive, so on and so forth. But, so I believe that this is a manifestation of that kind of extremist
And sir, that is why they videotaped it. I'm sorry, why they, with a cell phone camera. Kaya nila kinunan, and then kaya nila talagang pina-spread at pina-upload para makarating.
And
para makita.
They will catch the serious attention of their donor.
Okay, and then they will be taken seriously.
Yes, that's what I see.
Okay, all right. Can we go to the issue of accountability? I know this was some 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to talk about it briefly so that we can understand it better. I want the viewers to understand it better. General Purisima had said that he had given General Napeña's advice, not an order or not a command. Is there a difference, General Mendoza, since you were with the Philippine National Police?
You do not give advice when you think that you are on top of the situation. Because giving advice appears to be an excuse. Because we have information, and I'm not speculating, that during the stage of intelligence build-up, the president knows about it. Purisima endorsed the approval of the case operations plan, the intelligence project, together with Napinas, who was chosen to implement the portion of that execution. Because in the co-plan, if you will analyze the co-plan, that is basically derived from the old presentation of the intelligence project. And Colonel Padilla is very aware of that. O-plan is different from co-plan. There are ingredients or components that are almost similar. But, you know, the mission objective, the mission order is indicated in the co-plan. That's why it's very, very important to trace that document so that it can pinpoint to the accountability aspect.
And how will it pinpoint to the accountability aspect?
Because
it says
there is a distinct line of authority for co-plan and intelligence project. There is a project officer, project coordinator, supervisor, so on and so forth.
So project officer would be what? Who?
I,
Who would be the
I
project
believe,
officer?
I don't have the evidence, but
Yeah.
being the chief PNP and the magnitude and scope of the project is very sensitive, General Purisima will
General
act as the
Purisima.
project.
Oh,
But
because he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the superior of Napeñas
Yes,
dito.
case supervisor.
Yeah.
And the intelligence group submitted the case operations proposal for the approval. There is what we call procedures and system in the approval.
Yeah. We'll go into more detail about that, sir, para maintindihan lang ng tao no,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is the process. We'll just need to take a short break, and when we come back, that'll be the last stretch of the show. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pion Tveras. Still with us, General Boogie Mendoza, Colonel Resi Padilla, and Jose Custodio. General Mendoza, so tell us what it's like. You have a project officer, a case officer, etc. Ano po yung proseso? When you
Yes,
come up with this?
the simple process, is the case officer or the project officer will prepare a draft proposal for the approval of the immediate superior based on the lineal line of authority.
In this case, in the Mamasapano case, is this the head of the intelligence group, the one who prepared
The head of the intelligence group will prepare the co-plan proposal, and the Directorate for Intelligence will endorse
DI.
that to the chief PNP for approval because of the scope and character
Yeah, so
of the
it
project.
goes up muna, no?
So it
I'm sorry,
goes-
sir, yung IG is under the DI, the Directorate
yeah,
for
yeah.
Intelligence. Okay.
Yeah.
And then from DI, Directorate for Intelligence, aakyat kay Chief
Aakyat
PNP.
kay Chief PNP for
Oo.
approval.
Hindi po pwedeng from DI go straight to the operating unit.
No.
No.
Because this is basically intelligence-driven case operations plan.
Okay.
And the meaning of case operations plan is you have to solve the cases involving the primary and principal targets. Like Marwan, they are engaged in violations of the Human Security Act and other crimes.
Okay.
So you have to present it
Yeah.
in a case.
So from DI, it went up to Chief PNP.
Then
From
the Chief PNP will have two options. If he will go directly to the President through the PAOK-CC. And that
Presidential
is not,
Anti-Ordinance.
this is not ventilated properly. Because we have, there is another layer at the level of PAOK-CC called the Law Enforcement and Security Integration Office, LISU.
Another layer
Layer,
within
yeah.
PAOK?
The co-plan proposals shall be examined and evaluated. Shall be evaluated by this LISU before the approval. And if passed the scrutiny and the viability to be funded, and there is a high potential for success, it would be endorsed to the table of the chairman of the
Yeah.
PAOK-CC.
Sir, sorry, what's this again? Law Enforcement and
Law Enforcement and Security Integration Office.
Security Integration Office.
Yeah, about
Wow, ang hilig natin sa...
Bago yan, 2012.
Oo,
binuo nila yan.
first time for me to hear about it. Okay, who heads this now? So sa kanya dumaan itong...
Officer from PAOK-CC. I'm not sure now.
Okay. So it is a unit of the PAOK.
Yes.
Okay. And then from this Law Enforcement Security Integration Office, it went up to the
To the PAOK-CC chairman for approval.
PAOK-CC chairman, who is ES
Yeah,
Jojo
Executive
Chua,
Secretary.
and then goes up to the President.
Yes, because that is a national.
Yeah,
there's
but
a national
given
scope.
the very close relationship of General Purisima and President Aquino, posible bang from Chief PNP dumiretso na siya kay Presidente?
It cannot be done. It has
No.
to be passed to the Executive Secretary for funding.
Yeah, but like what General Peñas was relating, no, they went to Malacanang. He went to see the President with General Purisima once or twice. In other words, hindi na si Presidente dumirekta na kay Chief PNP.
Yes, correct.
Hindi-
What happened, Pia, in a layman's term, is the President, the resigned Chief PNP, General Peñas, acted as a mini, small chain of command without informing the bigger chain of command like
Or the
the
legit
horizontal line of authority,
Uh-huh.
because the executive secretary is the chairman of Anti-Terrorism Council, chairman of the PAOK-CC, chairman of the Cabinet Security Cluster, and being the executive secretary, he is not supposed to function on his behalf. But being the chairman of the PAOK-CC, he is mandated by law to promulgate on policy directions and plans. But now, there is a shift of policy shift, wherein the PAOK-CC is already intervening on the evaluation of case operations plan at the tactical level. That is the
That's the
erroneous
problem.
policy implementation.
Okay. How and why did this situation come about? By December 12, was it December 12? Several days after General Purisima had been suspended, you have General Peña still going to him and reporting to him, even if he had been suspended. Ano ba talaga dapat ang nangyari? Hindi
Well,
na siya dapat dumaan kay General Purisima?
Well, you know, there is what we call a chain of command. Everybody knows that. But there are also a defensive system being offered by General Peñas, and that allegedly there is no, the chain of command will not apply to the civilian organization. I beg to disagree, because even in the media, even in the corporate world, there is a chain of command. There is what we call lineal authority. What they have done is, in the case of General Peñas, maybe the public should be informed that there is what we call the Directorate for Operation. And directly under this directorate is the Special Action Force.
In other words, under the Directorate for Operations are all the operating units?
Yes. The
Including
Directorate for
SAF
Operation
Operation.
manages the Aviation Security Command, the Maritime Group,
Okay.
Special Action Force, Civil Security Group, and the head of this TDO was kept also in the dark.
Sino po yung DO ngayon, sir?
General Ricardo Marquez, classmate of General Peñas. He's a professional man.
So, sorry, Mista, hindi kita na-inform. Okay. Okay lang, Mista. Okay. And then, let's move on.
Because you cannot just move an undersized battalion of 392 assembled from different point of origin without the necessary operational clearance, because that pertains to troop movement, the so-called troop
Okay.
movement.
So, where did General Peñas get that clearance to move them all? Just from General Purisima?
From General Purisima, and that is according to information. I don't want to speculate.
Oo.
I'm talking
So,
here according to
okay,
information.
so accountability is only until General Purisima?
No, because you cannot, because if you will critically examine the flow, there is what we call a portion in the execution stage wherein there is a post-operation period, which is basically the intelligence build-up. Second one, the B, later is the execution.
Okay.
The execution has other dimension here, or dynamism. And the third is the post-operations period. So, that letter B, execution phase, would be the basis of the SAP to prepare the O-plan exodus. That is the mother co-plan, yung sinasabi ko. The intelligence build-up. After the intelligence build-up, the execution.
Oo.
And the post-operation.
Okay. Okay. Jose, you want to jump in now? We're in the last 3 minutes.
Well, for me,
Let's try 3 minutes.
the problem is not, the thing that's why this became an issue, okay, is because of the way the operation ended, okay? Had this not ended in that manner, then it would have been quickly, the victory would have been highlighted.
If there had been no casualties or
Or
that
very
huge
minimum,
amount,
that
no?
huge amount.
Okay.
So this then brings out a certain problem that seems to be affecting the PNP as a professional organization. Because I hark back to the days of 9/11, all of the assistance provided us to by the Americans. You hark back to the earlier days of combat with the MILF and the MNLF, and you see here the lessons learned. Okay, and then 15 years after that, so we have here the operation against Marwan. I have no issue. I have no problem with it. I have no problem with the intent to eliminate Marwan, as he rightfully deserved. Okay, Basit also, for all intents and purposes, they needed to be removed from the scene. Okay, the problem is how it was planned in the first place. The plan that came out, which, despite all of this assistance, okay, the best that they could come up with, despite all of the lessons learned, the best that they could come out with was to march a battalion inside hostile territory, asking
very hostile.
for a fight. Okay, that really was what I found to be so shocking in the entire.
But they
affair.
did have to get Marwan, who was inside.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Mamasapano, so-
despite all of the assistance that we had in the past 15 years, all this training and all of these things, that's
Ganyan
still
pa
that.
rin nangyari.
I mean, that's still the thing. It's a still traditional thing that always leads to large amount of casualties. So that's what I find shocking in this area. It's like as if all the training that happened, all of the assistance, all of the that we've had encountered, somewhat
went to
just-
waste. Okay.
Yeah.
You have 1 minute, so 20 seconds each for final words. You can say anything you want. You can include, some words on talk about the U.S. and supposed coup rumors, etc. So, Jose, 20 seconds.
Since you mentioned about the U.S., okay, we still have to see how pervasive was the U.S. Influence here, and if it had played a role in coming up with this type of operation that apparently the PNP was not capable of.
But terrorism is a transnational crime. We always need cooperation and help and support from our neighbors, correct?
So hopefully there will be lessons learned here, okay? That even if there's a foreign entity and we are obligated by certain things, there is still the national interest here. And we should also see to it that even if a foreign entity will want us to deal with somebody, we still have to take in consideration the local context, the capabilities that we have also.
Okay, Colonel Padilla.
Yeah, just two key points, the positive and the negative out of this Mamasapano incident. The negative first, we lost men, we now call them heroes, and we had a lot of lessons learned from this event, and we ought to proceed from there and move forward, no? Learning from these mistakes, what do we do next time, so that we don't repeat this. Then the negative implications now on our national security, everybody's being hyped up emotionally. It's time to be rational about everything, no? And then being rational about these things, let us see that there are implications right now. People are taking advantage, destabilizing our way of life, and putting out this text hoax of threats of bombing here and there. These are not very good for society.
Yeah, stop spreading them.
Yeah, let's stop spreading, be responsible citizens. That's the number one. Then cooperate with the security sector. If you find suspicious personnel that are not from your community, you find suspicious items, report them and cooperate with the police, with the military in your area, whoever is the authority in your area. So that's the last one. And then the final one, I guess, would be the best interest that we should put in mind is the smallest member of our society, those who go to work every day trying to bring home the bacon for them to feed their families. If we stop this normal way of life, they won't be able to go to work, bring the much needed money to buy food and provide for their families. So they'll be the ones whose lives will be disrupted, not all these people who are spreading these rumors.
Our takeaway from what you're saying, Colonel Padilla, is citizen participation. If you see something, say something.
Yes, that's
Simple as
the thing that we always want to inculcate, and I've been repeating that message because security is not the responsibility of the security sector alone. It is
the
everyone's
responsibility of
responsibility.
all. Thank you, sir. John Mendoza.
On counter-terrorism, there must be a policy reform, structural reform, and systems reform at all fronts. Because the Mamasapano incident exposes our system's weakness.
Vulnerabilities.
And that system also affected our the perception on international cooperation. Because we are part of the United Nations and the U.S. is a global leader. There are success stories on counterterrorism also by the Israel countries. So when I was in the active service, I have to admit that we have been cooperating based on liaisoning, information sharing.
And shouldn't we be?
So on and so forth.
We should, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have a binding agreement.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Jose Custodio, thank you again.
Yeah,
Colonel Padilla, thank you very much for being here. And John Mendoza, thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you for watching. See you again next Wednesday. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Good night.